market structure, but from one specific time frame, and then we were breaking down structure by having a look at it on one time frame into 3 different pieces of structure, okay, just so that we can understand when potentially swing pullbacks are starting and ending. And then we were also looking at internal structure concepts as well, okay. So I'll quickly go through this one last time. So we have our swing structure, which is what I'm drawing out now. This piece of structure here is significant enough to be a swing pullback. So that is a swing pullback. We then get a break of structure. After a break of structure, we expect a pullback. Now, how can we anticipate when that pullback is starting? So if you remember from part 1, we looked at 3 different types of structure. We looked at change of character being the fractal structure, being the most aggressive form of structure break. And then we looked at internal breaks of structure, which confirmed to us the start and end of our swing pullbacks. So again, I'm not going to go through this in too much detail because hopefully you would have watched part 1, but essentially a change of character confirms the start and end of an internal pullback. The internal structure then switches bearish, which confirms to us the start of the swing pullback. The internal structure remains bearish, right? We then get a bullish change of character, which signals to us the start of the internal pullback, but the fractal structure remains bullish, leading to a bullish IBOS, right, with the internal structure switching bullish, which confirms to us the end of the swing pullback. And then once we have full structural alignment with the internal structure aligned with the swing, this is a super high probability area to get long to then target that week high, okay? So hopefully that all makes sense and you've had a good opportunity to watch part 1 as well, as we covered that in a lot more detail. So this is the last piece of theory that we're going to have a look at in this video, and this is basically where we apply everything that we've learned within this market structure masterclass so far, bringing all of the concepts together so we can really start to paint the picture of how everything is connected and also start to build high probability trade ideas. Okay, so as you remember, just a very, very quick reminder, we have our daily time frame, which is bearish. We have the 4-hour time frame, which is bullish to facilitate the daily swing pullback. And we're now going to look at this piece of structure here, which is the 4-hour pullback, okay? So hopefully that makes sense. So as we know, the 4-hour time frame is overall bullish, right? And it's likely just switched bullish to facilitate that daily higher time frame pullback, okay? So our higher time frame in this scenario is the 4-hour, it's in black. Our medium time frame is in blue, and that's the 15-minute. And our lower time frame in orange is the 1 minute, okay, which we're going to use to time our entries. So as I say, the 4-hour time frame is bullish. This is a significant swing pullback on the 4-hour time frame. We then have a 4-hour break of swing structure. So then after that break of swing structure, we would expect a swing pullback, right? But it's not until we get a 4-hour bearish IBOS that confirms the swing pullback is starting. So up here, you can see we have a 4-hour bearish change of character, which signals the start of the internal pullback. So upon that 4-hour change of character, you can look to get short, but it is quite aggressive because you are still trading against the bullish internal trend. But if you want to be aggressive, then you can look to try and get short from here, just to play a little move back down into this strong protected internal 4-hour low. But it's not until we get a 4-hour IBOS that confirms the start of the 4-hour swing pullback. Now, you can notice that this 4-hour bearish IBOS is also a 15-minute break of swing structure. So you'll notice that this happens a lot, that, for example, a 4-hour internal low or high will in fact be a 15-minute swing high or low, okay? So once we see a 4-hour bearish IBOS, which is also an M15 break of swing structure, that confirms the start of the swing pullback. So now we can look to catch these M15 lower highs, right? And we can look to target these weak lows. And we would just expect the M15 trend to remain bearish until it switches bullish. So the M15 in blue has likely just switched bearish to facilitate this larger 4-hour swing pullback. Okay, but of course we can look to try and catch each of these M15 lower highs to target these week lows, catch the M15 lower high, target the week low, so on and so forth. However, you just need to be mindful that, the lower this M15 bearish trend goes, we are now coming into, the extreme of this 4-hour leg, into the discount of the leg. So, selling this lower high is lower probability than selling this lower high because you are lower in the leg, right? So as we come down into, the discount of this 4-hour swing leg, you can see that the M15 internal structure switches bullish. Okay, so we have an M15 bullish IBOS, which, as we know, confirms the start of the swing pullback. Now, our M15 swing high is here, and this is our M15 week low. The internal structure has switched bullish because we have an M15 IBOS, and we can look to try and catch this internal high low here, but we need to be mindful that this is a strong protected M15 swing high. So it's not until we get an M15 break of swing structure that we have that true confirmation that the M15 swing trend is now shifting. So as you can see, the M15 internal structure remains bullish, leading to an M15 break of swing structure, which is also a 4-hour bullish IBOS. What would that 4-hour bullish IBOS confirm to us? It would confirm to us that the 4-hour swing pullback has now finished. So of course, we now have true structural alignment with the M15 and the 4-hour time frame. So it's highly likely that this is the 4-hour higher low in place. Once we have that M15 break of swing structure, what would we expect? We would expect a swing pullback. How can we anticipate when that swing pullback is likely starting? Well, we could wait for an M15 change of character as our first signal, or an M15 bearish IBOS. So if we were to now have a look at the 1 minute time frame in orange, the 1 minute would obviously have to switch bearish to facilitate that M15 swing pullback, right? But because the 4-hour swing structure is bullish and the M15 is also bullish, we would only expect the 1 minute time frame to temporarily switch bearish to facilitate this M15 swing pullback. Okay, so yes, we can look to try and sell from here after this M15 bearish change of character, but it's low probability, right? Because it's against the 4-hour and the M15 swing structure. So the highest probability trade idea would be to try and catch this M15 higher low. And because we have true structural alignment with the M15 and the 4-hour, we can now look to target this weak 4-hour swing high, right? It's weak because it has failed to put in a new lower low and take out that strong low. So let's just see how this would look when we start to apply the risk to reward tool, okay? So as we know, we can look to try and sell this 4-hour internal pullback upon a 4-hour bearish change of character, but it is still relatively aggressive because the internal structure is still bullish and the M15 is still bullish as well. So it's not until we have that 4-hour bearish IBOS and that M15 break of swing structure as well that we have true confirmation that the swing pullback is now starting. So once we have that bearish IBOS, which is also a break of swing structure on the M15, we can now wait for price to pull back into an area of value, into a decent supply zone, right? And then we can look to try and catch that M15 lower high, which is a pretty decent and high probability trade idea in anticipation of catching this 4-hour swing pullback, right? Because you have some decent risk to reward, whether it's down into the EQ of that swing leg or even into, a 4-hour demand zone. Whatever it is, you have decent risk to reward on your side, okay? And then, of course, we just expect these M15 ranges to remain bearish until they fail, until price switches bullish again. But we just need to be mindful that, selling slightly lower in the leg becomes lower probability because, of course, that 4-hour swing higher low could start to form at any point when price enters, like the discount of the range, or it comes into a decent area of 4-hour demand, etc., etc. Okay. And then when we see the internal structure switch bullish, we can look to try and get in long just to play this M15 swing pullback, maybe targeting that weak internal high or maybe even up into some extreme supply like that. And then once we see the M15 swing structure switch bullish again, which in most cases will also be a 4-hour bullish IBOS, we can then wait for the M15 to pull back into an area of value, whether that's, the discount of that M15 swing leg into a decent area of M15 demand. And then of course we can look to try and catch that M15 higher low and then target that weak swing high. You might even just want to target the weak M15 swing high. But of course, when we have true structural alignment with the M15 and the 4 hour, it's high probability to target this weak 4 hour swing high. Okay. So if you want to take it one step further, you can then of course drop into your lower time frame, right? The 1 minute in orange. And then what you can do is you can wait for the 1 minute structure to switch bullish again. Okay. So as you can see, the 1 minute switch is bearish to facilitate that M15 swing pullback. We have a movement lower. Let's say that we mitigate some M15 demand, and then the 1 minute time frame switches bullish. This will likely be an M15 change of character, which is fractal structure on the M15. Once you have a 1 minute breaking structure or a 1 minute change of character or whatever entry model that you want to use, essentially what you want to do is you want to wait for the 1 minute structure to switch bullish. You want to wait for 1 minute order flow to fail, and then you can look to get long to catch this 1 minute higher low, which is where you have all timeframes aligned bullish because you have your 1 minute, M15 and 4 hour all aligned bullish. So it's, basically like all systems go. It's the highest probability setup that you can get because, well, as I say, all timeframes are aligned bullish. And then you can look to get long from a decent 1 minute POI, again, whatever your entry model is, and look to target that weak 4 hour swing high. So obviously, pretty textbook utopian examples here. So what we're now going to do is jump onto the charts, apply this theory into practice, see how it all looks, and we'll also have a look at a few trade examples